is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, President Trump has dismissed calls for an apology to Pope Leo, escalating a rare public feud with the Holy See. The dispute stems from sharp disagreements over the ongoing U.S. military campaign in Iran. The president is also reigniting tensions with European allies, blasting NATO for a lack of support. Trump expressed deep disappointment in the alliance as U.S. operations in the Middle East intensify. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared a solid security zone during a sensitive visit to the Lebanese town of Bin Jabil. The bold move coincides with the total collapse of U.S.-Iran peace talks in Islamabad. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has publicly broken with the White House, declaring the UK will not join the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The split follows more than 20 hours of failed negotiations between Washington and Tehran. Regional leaders are warning of severe threats to global supply chains as the Hormuz crisis takes center stage at the ASEAN summit. Manila remains on high alert, continuing repatriation efforts for Filipinos trapped in the conflict zone. In Cuba, a new fleet of solar-powered tricycles is transforming commutes amid a total national energy collapse. The renewable fleet offers a rare lifeline for residents stranded by dry gas pumps and chronic power outages. And in sports, Alex Ayala has regained ground in the WTA rankings, climbing to world number 45. The Filipino tennis star is now headed to Germany to compete in the highly anticipated Stuttgart Open. I'm Prince Tripoli. Newsline World starts now. For our first story, U.S. President Donald Trump has dismissed calls for an apology to Pope Leo, escalating a rare public dispute between the White House and the Holy See over the ongoing conflict in Iran. This report from Almar Forsuelo.
The war of words between Washington and the Vatican reached a new peak on Tuesday as President Trump doubled down on his criticism of Pope Leo XIV. Trump posted an AI-generated image of himself to Truth Social on Sunday, depicting him as a Jesus Christ-like figure with divine light emanating from his hands as he heals a man with a demon-like figure in the background. He has deleted this post. He then posted a lengthy social media post last night in which Trump called him weak on crime, while also saying the Pope should stop catering to the radical left. Trump claimed the Pope's opposition to the U.S. military campaign against Iran is misguided, warning that nuclear-armed Tehran would lead to hundreds of millions of people dead. The president further characterized the Pope as weak on crime, contrasting the Vatican's stance with his own law and order policies.
No, I don't, because Pope Leo said things that are wrong. He was very much against what I'm doing with regard to Iran, and you cannot have a nuclear Iran. Pope Leo would not be happy with the end result. You have hundreds of millions.
It's a moral necessity to prevent a nuclear nation from exterminating the world.
I like Louis better than I like the Pope. No, you have to have law and order in our country, and that's what we have now. We have the lowest crime numbers we've had in a long time, despite the fact that many criminals were allowed into our country, but we've gotten a lot of them out. We've done a great job on crime. So we have the lowest murder rate in 125 years, since 1900, the lowest murder rate. So we believe strongly in law and order.
The Vatican has yet to officially respond to these latest remarks, which come at a critical moment for the global coalition as the Islamabad talks remain in stalemate. While the Holy See has traditionally served as a mediator in global conflicts, the current friction suggests a deep ideological divide between the Trump administration's strength through action approach and the Vatican's calls for de-escalation. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Forsuelo, SMNI News.
U.S. President Donald Trump criticized NATO, expressing disappointment over what he described as a lack of support from the alliance. Franco Miranda reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump claims NATO was not there for the United States, despite what he claimed were trillions of dollars spent to support the alliance.
I'm very disappointed in NATO. They didn't do that. They weren't there for us. We pay trillions of dollars for NATO, and they weren't there for us. Remember what I said. NATO was not there. Now they want to come up, but there's no real threat anymore. But NATO was not there for us.
When asked whether countries that did not provide support would face consequences, Trump said the situation remains under consideration.
We'll see what happens. But, we spend trillions of dollars on NATO to help them guard really against Russia. When you think of it, we're guarding against Russia. And I've long thought it was a little ridiculous, but we spend trillions of dollars doing it. And I think that's going to be under very serious examination.
The U.S. president also questioned the long-standing purpose of NATO, particularly its role in countering Russia, suggesting the alliance's contributions should be reassessed. Trump's remarks add to ongoing debates over the future of NATO as global security dynamics continue to evolve. This has been Verhil Parba, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has visited the sensitive Lebanese town of Bint Jbeil, declaring the creation of a solid security zone just as peace talks between the U.S. and Iran collapse in Islamabad. The details from Jane Cunita.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu conducted a high-profile tour of what he termed a security zone in southern Lebanon, specifically visiting Bint Jbeil on Sunday. The visit comes just 24 hours after the IDF's 98th Division completed the encirclement of the town, a historic flashpoint from the 2006 war. Netanyahu praised the steadfast spirit of Israeli reserve forces, claiming the operation has successfully distanced the enemy from the border and removed the immediate threat of anti-tank missiles. While Lebanese authorities condemned the move as a blatant violation of sovereignty, the Prime Minister insisted the fighting will continue until security is fully restored to northern Israel.
ואנחנו לא מדברים על 5 נקודות, אנחנו מדברים עכשיו על רצועת ביטחון מוצקה, עמוקה יותר, שגם מונעת את הסכנה של הפלישה וגם מרחיקה את איום הנ"ט. הם גם מטפלים בכפרי הטרור שהיו צמודים לגבולנו, שם כל עמדת טרור ורבות הן פשוט משותחות. וצריך לראות את זה, זה שינוי עצום, צריך לראות גם את הרוח שלהם. יש לנו עדיין איום מהתמ"ס, גם בזה מטפלים, יש שם חידושים חשובים, אבל יש עבודה לעשות. ואני התרשמתי מאוד גם מהנכונות, מההבנה שאנחנו צריכים להחזיר את הביטחון לצפון ולדאוג שתושבי הצפון שמגיע להם את אותה מידת ביטחון שיש לכל אזרחי ישראל, שגם הם יקבלו אותה, אנחנו לא נשקוט עד שנחזיר להם את הביטחון. וכמובן, הלחימה נמשכת, היא לא נפסקה, היא נמשכת כל הזמן, ואתמול היא התרכזה וגם היום בבינט ג'בייל.
Addressing rumors of a diplomatic disconnect, Netanyahu staunchly rejected claims of a rift with Washington. He revealed that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance called him directly from his plane while returning from the failed Islamabad summit. According to the Prime Minister, the breakdown in negotiations was triggered by Iran's failure to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a blatant violation of the 2-week ceasefire agreement. Netanyahu confirmed that Trump has now decided to impose a full naval blockade on Iran, a move Israel firmly supports.
איראן הפרה את הכללים, הנשיא טראמפ החליט לשים עליהם בלוקדה, זו מילה לועזית, למצור, מצור ימי. אנחנו כמובן תומכים בעמדה התקיפה הזאת, ואנחנו מתואמים עם ארצות הברית כל הזמן. הדיבורים כאילו יש בינינו נתק, זה ההפך מהגמור, יעידו על כך לא רק...
Connecting the current campaign to Holocaust Remembrance Day, Netanyahu drew a sharp contrast between the past and the present, stating that 80 years after the Holocaust, the tables have turned. He asserted that Israel is no longer a hunted animal, but is now actively hunting its enemies. As the Islamabad ceasefire teeters on the brink following the U.S. decision to initiate a naval blockade, Netanyahu's visit to Bin Jbeil sends a clear signal that Israel's northern offensive will persist regardless of the diplomatic stalemate. This has been Jane Cogniter, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Jordan and Syria have signed multiple cooperation agreements at a high-level bilateral summit in Amman, with both sides calling for the current U.S.-Iran ceasefire to be translated into a comprehensive regional agreement and signaling a deepening strategic partnership amid the ongoing Middle East crisis. The agreements were signed Sunday at the second session of the Jordanian-Syrian Higher Coordination Council in the Jordanian capital, the highest-level formal mechanism between the two neighboring states. Following the meeting, Jordan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi reaffirmed Amman's full support for Syria.
لم يرد أي منا هذه الحرب، والآن بعد أن توصل إلى اتفاق لوقف إطلاق النار، ما نريده هو أن يفضي هذا الاتفاق إلى اتفاق شامل يضمن أمن المنطقة واستقرارها، يضمن احترام سيادة الدول، يضمن عدم التدخل في شؤونها، يضمن احترام القانون الدولي، ويضمن أيضا حريات الملاحة.
Syrian Foreign Minister Asahad Hassan al-Sibani described Jordan as a strategic partner and said both sides are now eyeing larger-scale economic cooperation. Among the most significant proposals on the table, the joint development of Syria's Mediterranean ports of Latakia and Tartus, alongside Jordan's port of Aqaba, to create an integrated gateway to the Red Sea. Regional security also featured prominently on the agenda. On Lebanon, both foreign ministers voiced support for Beirut's efforts to assert national sovereignty and bring all weapons under state control. On the broader conflict, both Amman and Damascus called for the current U.S.-Iran ceasefire to move beyond a temporary truce, urging all parties to work toward a comprehensive agreement anchored in international law and the principle of non-interference in sovereign affairs. Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez has called on Venezuelans to overcome their differences with the United States, describing it as an act of, quote, great maturity, even as she warned that political extremism will not be tolerated and urged the armed forces to stand firm in defense of the country. Verhil Papa reports.
As an act of maturity, acting President Delcy Rodriguez called on Venezuelans to overcome their differences with the United States. Rodriguez made the remarks Monday at an official ceremony in Caracas marking Venezuela's National Day of Civic Military Union, a date that commemorates the 24th anniversary of the return to power of former President Hugo Chavez following his brief removal in a civic military coup in April 2002. During the event, Rodriguez decorated members of the armed forces and delivered a speech striking two distinct tones, one of diplomatic pragmatism toward Washington and another of firm nationalist resolve at home.
Superemos nuestras diferencias para pedir el cese de las sanciones contra Venezuela y para que en unión nacional defendamos la tranquilidad y la paz de Venezuela. Venimos de un 3 de enero, milicianos, milicianas, pueblo venezolano. Sabemos lo que significó los misiles cayendo en la ciudad natal de nuestro padre libertador. ¡Qué profundo dolor! ¡Qué herida! E inmediatamente dijimos, vamos cara a cara con el gobierno de los Estados Unidos a dirimir nuestras diferencias, a entendernos como países de este hemisferio. Pero yo tengo que decir que eso demanda mucha madurez de nuestra parte, demanda mucha unidad nacional y de saber que cada paso que estemos dando es para defender a nuestra patria, para garantizar la paz.
The overture toward Washington comes in the wake of the events of January 3rd, when President Nicolas Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores were arrested, deepening the rupture between Caracas and the United States. Rodriguez called on Venezuelans to pursue the lifting of U.S. sanctions through diplomatic means, framing engagement, not confrontation, as the path forward. But her tone sharpened when she turned to domestic politics.
Ese fascismo de hace 24 años está vivo en Venezuela, pero lo que está más vivo en nuestra patria es la conciencia de los venezolanos y de las venezolanas de entender y de saber que ese no es el camino para Venezuela. Lo que está más vivo que nunca es el alma patriota, es el espíritu que vibra en nuestra piel por defender a Venezuela.
Rodriguez accused opposition forces of seeking to take power and privatize Venezuela's state oil company, Petróleos de Venezuela, also known as PDVSA, echoing long-standing government rhetoric against political rivals. She stressed that despite these threats, the patriotic sentiment of the Venezuelan people remains stronger than ever. Closing her address, Rodriguez called on the armed forces to deepen their ties with the public and the national police, declaring that extremism in any form will not be tolerated on Venezuelan soil. Venezuela remains in a state of deep political uncertainty following Maduro's arrest in January. Rodriguez continues to govern in an acting capacity with no clear timeline for what comes next. This has been Virgil Parba, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Up next, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has publicly broken with the White House, declaring the UK will not join the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The split follows more than 20 hours of failed negotiations between Washington and Tehran. And regional leaders are warning of severe threats to global supply chains as the Hormuz crisis takes center stage at the ASEAN summit. Manila remains on high alert, continuing repatriation efforts for Filipinos trapped in the conflict zone. More news when Newsline World returns.
Sa panahon ng ingay, sa panahon ng maraming tanong, panahon na para marinig ang katotohanan.
Sa totoo lang, ano ba talaga ang nangyayari sa ating bansa?
At sa totoo lang, handa ba tayong harapin ang katotohanan?
Sa totoo lang,
dito walang iwasan,
walang paligoy-ligoy.
diretsong usapan.
Sa totoo lang.
Sa SMNI.
Every day begins with a choice: to stay down or to rise and chase the dream. For athletes, success is not built overnight. It is shaped in silence long before the crowd arrives.
When you become an athlete in any sport events like boxing, any kind of gymnastics or any kind of triathlon, ganon. You are a runner, you are a marathoner, you are a boxer, you are an Olympic athlete. There's a lot of restrictions compared to a regular person who is not involved in any kind of kind of sports.
Restrictions are not punishment. They are preparation.
For the athlete, it's nothing. It's their lifestyle. For the regular jando outside looking at you, parang naawa sila eh. Yung pagkain mo, puro healthy. It needs a lot of discipline for an athlete in a competition.
The same is true in the spiritual life. The way is not wide. It is not easy. It is narrow.
So, Jesus Christ also mentioned that in a very vivid statement when he said, the way to life is very narrow and very strict and very small.
89 kilograms, please.
What the world calls restriction, the faithful call obedience.
For us, there is no restrictions. That is so restricted enough that we cannot do it. And when it becomes our lifestyle, it's nothing. It's regular for us. Regular for us to be clean-minded, regular for us to be orderly, regular for us to be straightforward. Obedience, commitment, loyalty, dedication, repented in the sight of the Father.
Because this life is a race.
Are we in this life in a competition? Yes, very much. Because Paul said that also. They that run in a race run all, but one receives the prize.
Not everyone who runs wins. Only those who endure.
In order for you to be in a race, you have to be disciplined. So the kingdom nation's citizenship is a disciplined citizenship.
Run the race. Choose the narrow way. Live the disciplined life. Because the prize is eternal.
Pagod? Nanunuyo ang lalamunan? O baka naman nahihirapan kang mag-focus sa ginagawa? Kapartner, baka naman dehydrated ka na. Ang katawan natin ay binubuo ng halos 60% hanggang 70% na tubig. Kung walang sapat na hydration, parang sasakyang walang gasolina ang ating katawan, hindi makakaarangkada. Bakit nga ba mahalaga ang tamang hydration? Hindi lamang ito pamatid uhaw dahil nakatutulong rin ito sa pagdaloy ng sustansya sa katawan, pagpapanatili ng tamang body temperature, at pagpapakinis ng kutis. Kaya't huwag nang hintayin pang mauhaw ka bago uminom. Ang pagkauhaw ay babala na ng iyong katawan na ikaw ay dehydrated na. Ang standard na payo ng mga doktor ay 8 baso ng tubig ang dapat inumin bawat araw. Pero tandaan, depende ito sa iyong timbang, edad at kung gaano ka ka-active. Samantala, narito ang ilang gabay para manatiling hydrated. Simula ng araw sa isang basong tubig, magbaon ng sariling tumbler para siguradong may maiinom saan man magpunta. At hanggat maaari, piliin ang tubig kaysa mga matatamis na inumin. Kaya mga kapartner, manatiling hydrated para makaiwas sa mas malalang sakit at upang maalagaan ang iyong kalusugan.
Pasasaan pa ang kalayaan kung ang mga alipin ngayon ay sila din naman mang-aalipin bukas.
Ibigin mo ang iyong bayan ng sunod kay Bathala, sa iyong kapurihan at higit sa lahat sa iyong sarili.
Hindi natin mapapalaya ang ating mga sarili maliban kung sumulong tayo na nagkakaisa sa iisang hangarin.
Ang tunay na makabayan ay ang tumutupad ng pagpapabuti ng kanyang mga kapwa, gaano man kaaba ang kanyang katungkulan. Naway magsilbing paalala ang kanilang mga salita upang lalo nating mahalin at tapat na paglingkuran ang minamahal nating inang bayan. or bad? British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has publicly broken with US President Donald Trump, declaring that the United Kingdom will not join America's announced blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, as peace talks between Washington and Tehran collapsed in Islamabad over the weekend after more than 20 hours of failed negotiation. This report.
Mr. Speaker,
Prime Minister Keir Starmer drew a clear line between British and American policy on the strait, saying London's focus is on reopening the waterway, not enforcing a blockade that he warned was causing serious damage to economies around the world, including Britain's own. He announced that the UK is working with partner nations to coordinate a response and will convene a diplomatic summit later this week.
we are focusing our efforts on opening in full the Strait of Hormuz because of the damage it's doing to economies around the world, including our own economy. That is why we've been working with other countries at various levels, and we'll bring them together in a summit later this week. And we, the UK, will not be joining the blockade that the President announced.
Starmer also issued a warning about the broader regional picture, describing the ceasefire between the US, Israel, and Iran as welcome but deeply fragile, and calling for Lebanon to be urgently brought into wider ceasefire efforts.
Because whilst the ceasefire between the US, Israel, and Iran is undeniably welcome, it is also highly fragile. The region remains on edge, and a lot of work is required to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, to de-escalate the situation, leading to a sustainable ceasefire.
His remarks came as the breakdown of US-Iran talks in Islamabad cast a fresh shadow over diplomatic efforts. Negotiations collapsed over the weekend after Washington insisted Tehran abandon any path toward developing nuclear weapons and demand Iran rejected as unreasonable. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, speaking before leaving Pakistan, described the outcome as, quote, bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the U.S. Iran's foreign ministry said views remained divergent on 2 or 3 key issues, adding that a deal had never been expected from a single session. China is calling for a calm and immediate ceasefire as tensions escalate in the Gulf following the reported blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and stalled peace talks between the United States and Iran. Carla Peña has more.
Speaking at the press briefing, Guo Jiakun emphasized that the Strait of Hormuz is a vital global trade route and its security is in the shared interest of the international community.
霍尔木兹海峡是重要的国际货物和能源贸易通道，维护该地区的安全稳定和畅通，符合国际社会共同利益。海峡通航受阻的根源在于伊朗战事，解决这一问题的出路是尽快停火止战。各方应该保持冷静和克制，中方愿继续发挥积极建设性作用。
Guo also urged all parties to remain calm and pursue diplomatic solutions, saying China is willing to continue playing a constructive role in easing tensions. Addressing reports that Beijing may be preparing to send weapons to Iran, China firmly rejected the claims, describing them as unfounded.
中国在军品出口方面一贯采取慎重、负责任态度。根据本国出口管制法律法规及承担的国际义务。 实施严格管控，我们反对无根据的抹黑或恶意关联。
On recent U.S.-Iran talks held in Islamabad, China welcomed the negotiations as a step toward de-escalation, while urging all sides to honor ceasefire arrangements and avoid renewed conflict.
美伊双方在巴基斯坦开启谈判，是朝有利于局势缓和方向迈出的一步。中方希望相关方恪守 临时停火安排，坚持通过政治外交途径化解争端，避免重燃战火，为早日恢复海湾地区和平安宁创造条件。
China also reiterated its position on global energy cooperation, stressing the importance of stability in supply chains and respect for national sovereignty, including that of Venezuela. Beijing says it will continue diplomatic efforts to promote peace as concerns grow over the impact of the conflict on global trade and energy security. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
China and the United Arab Emirates have signed 24 memoranda of understanding during the visit of Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince to Beijing. The agreement covers a wide range of sectors including energy, trade, technology, and infrastructure, signaling a deepening of bilateral ties between the two nations. The visit highlights growing cooperation as both sides seek to expand economic partnerships and strengthen strategic alignment. Officials say the deals aim to boost investment flows and enhance collaboration in key industries. The signing of the agreements underscores the strengthening relationship between China and the UAE as both countries continue to broaden their global partnerships. The Strait of Hormuz crisis took center stage at a special ASEAN foreign ministers meeting this week, as regional leaders warned of serious threats to supply chains and rising energy and food prices. Meanwhile, the Philippine government says it is keeping a close watch on the situation, with repatriation efforts for Filipinos in the Middle East still ongoing. Kai Villan will give us the details.
Philippine Foreign Affairs Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro chaired the second special ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, a follow-up to an earlier session in March convened in response to escalating tensions in the Middle East. Central to the discussions were the recent U.S.-Iran ceasefire and the conditional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, the critical choke point through which a significant share of the world's oil supply passes. Foreign ministers stressed the urgent need for de-escalation and a return to diplomacy, warning that a failure to stabilize the region would have serious consequences for energy and food security across Southeast Asia. ASEAN members agreed to strengthen coordination, information sharing, and crisis response mechanisms as the situation continues to evolve. The meeting also served as preparation for the upcoming 48th ASEAN Summit in Cebu in May 2026, where supply chain resilience and regional security are expected to dominate the agenda. On the ground, the Philippine government says its foreign service posts across the Middle East remain on full alert. In the United Arab Emirates, the Department of Foreign Affairs reported no missile or aerial threats detected in the 24-hour period ending April 9th, but movement through the Strait of Hormuz remains severely limited, with around 230 vessels unable to transit, according to the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. Dubai's main stock index also fell 1.5% in the wake of regional developments. Following the ceasefire announcement, repatriation requests from non-overseas Filipino workers have begun to ease. The Philippine Consulate General in Dubai reports that 350 non-OFWs have now been brought home, with full consular operations continuing. The DFA says it will continue to prioritize the safety and welfare of all Filipinos in the Middle East region as the situation remains fluid. Reporting for Newsline World, Kai Villan, SMNA News.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has defended his government's decision to keep the value-added tax on petroleum products, even as fuel prices continue to rise, saying the revenue it generates is critical to funding programs that benefit all Filipinos, not just the oil sector. Cresling Katarong reports.
President Bongbong Marcos Jr. explained that as global crude oil prices climbed, the government actually collects a so-called windfall from value-added tax or VAT revenues on petroleum imports, additional income that he says goes directly toward public programs and assistance. Marcos argued that removing the tax would risk channeling the benefit narrowly to the oil industry rather than to the wider population.
Because of that, all the importations will have, at the present VAT rate, we will get funds from extra funds from that. Those, if we take away the VAT on petroleum products, it will only help the petroleum market.
The president stressed that the government needs adequate funding to serve not just one sector, but society as a whole, and that VAT on fuel remains one of its most reliable sources for doing so.
What we need is funding to help the entire society. Hindi pwedeng yun lang, titignan lang natin is the petroleum. Kasi sinasabi ng mga tao, bakit puro transport workers lang ang tinutulungan nyo? Paano kami? Bakit the other? We also have to take care of the other sectors.
Marcos said the additional revenue from the tax is being channeled into subsidies, cash assistance, and other relief programs for sectors hit hardest by the current economic situation. He assured, however, that the government remains open to all options and continues to study other possible measures should conditions require a change in approach.
We will still examine it. You know, like I keep telling you, there's nothing that we are not looking at as a possible option. We are looking at all the options. If the time comes that it really calls for, the time will come that VAT should be brought down for whatever products, then we will certainly study it very well.
For now, the president says the case for keeping the VAT on petroleum remains strong, with the funds it generates seen as delivering more benefit to more Filipinos than removal would. Whether that position holds as prices remain elevated will be a key question heading into the weeks ahead. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Cresceline Catarong, SMNI News.
When we return, in Cuba, a new fleet of solar-powered tricycles is transforming commutes amid a total national energy collapse. The renewable fleet offers a rare lifeline for residents stranded by dry gas pumps and chronic power outages. And in sports, Alex Ayala has regained ground in the WTA rankings, climbing to world number 45. The Filipina tennis star is now headed to Germany to compete in the highly anticipated Stuttgart Open. More news after the break. A traditional Micronesian voyaging canoe has completed a 1,000-kilometer open ocean crossing to arrive in Okinawa, Japan, carrying a crew of 16 from across the Pacific and reviving a centuries-old tradition of navigation without modern instruments. Hector Kikuzaki has a story.
A welcoming ceremony was held in Okinawa Prefecture to mark the arrival of the traditional voyaging canoe, Alingano Maisu, celebrating the enduring cultural ties between Japan and Pacific Island nations. The Alingano Maisu, a traditional Micronesian voyaging canoe, made landfall in Okinawa Prefecture on April 12, 2026, completing an approximately 1,000-kilometer passage from eastern Taiwan as part of an ongoing cultural exchange across the Pacific. A welcoming ceremony was held at Yunabano Marina in coordination with the Okinawa Toka Yacht Race 2026, honoring the island's maritime heritage and the deep cultural ties across the Pacific.
沖縄で受け入れてほしいという話、2ヶ月前ね、本来1年前ぐらいの話で来るものだけど、まあこういったカヌーとか風で動く、自然で動くものはもう時間っていうのは測ってできない、飛行機で来るわけじゃないからね。じゃあまあイレギュラーが起きる前提で、まあ自分たち沖縄の、仲間知り合い、伝統文化の人たちに声かけをして、 まあ、みんながそういうことであればお金もいらんよと、みんなで協力するよという話の中で、まあ、みんなが協力してくれたのが今日のこのイベントになってます。まあ、パラオの大統領とかね、いっぱい来てたり、沖縄県の知事も来てたり、まあ、いろいろ、まあ、ガバメントが絡むと、まあ、面倒くさいのもあるけどね、まあ、とりあえず今回は、僕らの気持ちでパラオの人をなんていうの、迎えるっていう形で、まあ、こういったデザインとかもね、みんなこの仲間が作ってくれたりしてるわけだから、やっぱり今みんなファミリーとしてうまくこの、太平洋パシフィックオーシャンのね島の人たちとしてのつながりをしっかりと、つなげていこうという形でやりました。なので、まあ、これぐらい
Alingano Maisu is really to pass on the traditional knowledge to our young people and to people all over the Pacific, that we have to retain as much as possible. We have to transfer as much as possible this knowledge and skills of traditional navigation to the young children and the youth of Micronesia and the Pacific. Because if we don't do it, it will be a lost knowledge. You know, it'll be a lost culture. So the physical voyage of the Alingano Maisu really reminds us that we need to maintain the knowledge of the ocean seafaring that is based on the respect for the ocean, based on the traditional knowledge and understanding of nature, the stars, the ocean, the winds, the currents, the moon cycles. All of these parts of nature can really guide the vessel nowadays without the use of modern technology. But it all comes to understanding nature, respecting nature, and studying the elements of how nature interacts with the weather, with the ocean, and with the navigation destinations. So I'm very happy that this voyage has come to, well, it started in Palau, went to Taiwan, and it's come to Okinawa. And after Okinawa, it will go back to Guam, to Saipan, to Yap of the Federated States of Micronesia, and then back finally to Palau.
At the helm is Grandmaster Navigator Cesario Serrarur, son of the late Mao Pailog, one of the most celebrated traditional navigators in Pacific history. Navigated without modern instruments, relying on stars, ocean swells, and wind the cano. The voyage carries a crew of 16 members from across the Pacific, including Japanese crew member Kazuyo Hayashi, reflecting long-standing cultural relationships between Japan and Micronesia.
I came from an island that it's a small atoll, small island. It's about 3 miles long, a half mile wide. So navigation in our culture is the most important thing that it takes you from place to place in terms of survival, because when the typhoon hits the island, it will be all destroyed, and then we need to sail from island to get food for the community, for your own people. So, and we preserve it because that's how we grew up, survive through our culture, and it is our identity as a people of the ocean. So we managed to maintain the traditional navigation because, we can't be dependent on a modern instrument. But if your instrument failure, then there's no way you could manage to take you from one place to place. So the traditional navigation in our culture is the most important thing, and we need to pass it down to the new generation so they can carry on and continue the legacy of our ancestors and, our true identity of voyagers. And as we say, the ocean connects us all together.
Also joining this voyage is indigenous Taiwanese cultural leader and poet Sakino, who is documenting the journey through storytelling and literary work. His participation reflects a growing cultural movement across Taiwan and the Pacific to reconnect indigenous identity, ocean knowledge, and ancestral pathways. In the coming days, educational and cultural exchange activities will be conducted at Ginoan Marina,
offering a rare lifeline for commuters stranded by dry gas pumps and power outages. This story from Daniela Polite.
In the sand ranch streets of Havana, necessity has once again become the mother of invention. Faced with a near total decline in oil supplies and a failing power grid, local drivers are turning to photovoltaic technology to keep the city moving. These modified electric tricycles, equipped with heavy-duty solar panels, act as small collectives providing shared transport for residents who have seen traditional bus and taxi services vanish. According to drivers, the panels serve as a range extender, allowing them to operate for up to 8 continuous hours without needing to plug into the unstable national grid.
La ventaja que tiene es que te permite trabajar más de 7 o 8 horas continuas sin parar, siempre que tenga el sol de forma continua, ¿ves? Y también tienes que partir de que la carga eléctrica tienes que ponérsela pues, antes de salir y ya mantenerte con el panel todo el tiempo como si fuera el extensor de rango, pero carga un poco más lento, pero te permite trabajar alrededor de 8 horas.
The project emerged from the grassroots level, born out of a collaboration between drivers frustrated by limited battery range and the lack of charging infrastructure. Alexis Ruiz, one of the project's creators, notes that the assembly, which takes about a day and a half per vehicle, is providing a critical service to the economy in a time when there is nothing at all in the terms of fuel.
Todo nosotros comenzamos inicialmente por los problemas que existían en el país del transporte y la decadencia del petróleo. No teníamos, entonces las baterías no daban tanta distancia, no podíamos recorrer tanta distancia y se nos dio, no sé, un día comenzamos hablando y entre los cuatro que estuvimos ahí, decidimos emprender, o no sé, iniciar un proyecto de instalación eléctrica a través de paneles solares, que nos está dando bastantes resultados. Se han instalado 10, 11 triciclos y todos tienen buena autonomía.
For Habaneros, the tri-seat taxis are more than just a novelty. They are a vital solution to the island's current isolation. With fuel shipments from traditional allies like Mexico and Venezuela drying up following regional escalations, solar energy is proving to be the only power source that the blockade cannot touch. As the sun sets over the Malaccan, these tricycles remain among the few vehicles still running, bridging the gap between innovation and survival in a nation currently forced to live off the grid. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulite, SMNI News.
Yasmin Curdy has expressed support for the fellow actor Alfred Vargas and his wife, Yasmin Espiritu Vargas, following an alleged bullying incident involving their son. Meanwhile, a new documentary featuring BTS is drawing attention after revealing a creative debate over incorporating a traditional Korean song into their music. Faith Agustin has the showbiz updates.
The couple has filed a complaint against the parents of another child, accusing the minor of repeatedly pushing and holding their son underwater during swimming training sessions. According to Vargas, the incidents occurred multiple times despite their attempts to raise concerns with the other child's parents and request proper supervision. Curdy extended comfort and solidarity to the family as the issue sparked discussion online about child safety and accountability in training environments. The case highlights growing concerns over bullying among minors, with calls for greater awareness and preventive measures from both parents and institutions. In BTS The Return, a tense moment shows HYBE chairman Bang Si-hyuk and BTS members discussing whether to include Arirang in their hip-hop track Body to Body. Some members expressed concern about using the culturally significant folk song, questioning how it would be received in a modern global music context. Meanwhile, Bang argued that incorporating Arirang could create a powerful and memorable moment, especially during large-scale performances. He suggested that in stadiums filled with tens of thousands of fans, many from international audiences, a collective sing-along could become iconic. The discussion highlights the group's careful balance between honoring cultural heritage and appealing to a global audience, offering fans a rare glimpse into their creative process. This has been Faith Agustin, your citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest show buzz.
In sports, Alex Ayala regained ground in the WTA rankings, climbing back to world number 45 as she prepares to compete in the Stuttgart Open in Germany. Meanwhile, Nikola Jokic led the charge as the Denver Nuggets surged into the NBA playoffs, securing the Western Conference third seed with a 128-118 win over the San Antonio Spurs. Carlo De La Peña tells us more.
Alex Ayala's standout improved one spot in the latest rankings, bouncing back after a slight dip following her recent tournaments. Ayala is set to open her campaign against world number 25 Leylah Fernandez, setting up a challenging first-round clash in the WTA 500 event. Her current ranking comes after a mixed run that saw her fall short of matching last year's semifinal finish at the Miami Open, which affected her points total. She briefly dropped to number 46 following a round of 16 exit at the Linz Open, but quickly recovered to reclaim the number 45 spot with 1,285 points. Ayala also swapped positions with Marketa Vondrousova, who slipped to number 46 in the latest update. With momentum building again, Ayala now turns her focus to Stuttgart as she looks to climb further up the rankings. Meanwhile, on the final day of the regular season, Denver Nuggets extended its winning streak to 12 games, riding a dominant first-half performance from Jokic, who scored 23 points to set the tone early. The three-time MVP logged just over 18 minutes, enough to meet eligibility requirements for end-of-season awards, while helping the Nuggets build a commanding halftime lead they never surrendered. San Antonio, meanwhile, played without rising star Victor Wembanyama, who was sidelined due to a rib injury. With a victory, Denver locked in the number 3 seed and will face the Minnesota Timberwolves in the opening round of the playoffs. Elsewhere, the Los Angeles Lakers clinched the 4th seed and set up a first-round showdown with the Houston Rockets, potentially featuring a marquee duel between LeBron James and Kevin Durant. In the East, the Toronto Raptors secured a 5th seed behind strong performances from RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, and Scotty Barnes, who recorded a triple-double. Defending champions Oklahoma City Thunder, already assured of the top seed in the West, closed their regular season with the loss as teams shifted focus toward the playoff. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo De La Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the song. Every day may not be good, but there's something good in every day. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Prince Tripoli. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.